for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Angels. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Thursday evening to you, wherever you may be. Here we are at the ballpark, and boy, it sounds good just to say here at Dodger Stadium. And I'm sure for both teams, they're delighted to be back in Southern California. For the Angels, they did very well in the spring, 15-8. For the Dodgers, they were 13-14. What's really interesting, the Angels played 6 ties, and the Dodgers played 3. So you can imagine 9 ties in spring training. But then again, that's the nature of the beast. Meanwhile, with both teams swollen as far as their rosters are concerned, a lot of jobs are at stake during this series, and a lot of fellas will be sent out to get down to the mandatory 25. The Dodgers will have Scott Kazmir on the mound trying to impress. He had a shaky spring. And Andrew Heaney, who was 6-4 last year, will finally make a start against the Dodgers. You may remember about Heaney. He was in Miami. Then the D. Gordon trade was made. Heaney came here only to check in and check out and go on to the Angels for Howie Kendrick. So a couple of pals who know each other over the years will be battling against each other. Mike Trout, by the way, is not in the starting lineup, but first base, well, Albert Pujols is playing, but he's the DH, and that brings up a point. It's a different game tonight. The American League is using the DH, and the Dodgers are playing the natural National League way. So those are the pregame notes. We'll get back to the ball game right after this. Thursday evening to you as the Dodgers and Angels get together. Dodgers and Angels meeting for the first time here as we broke the seal at Dodger Stadium. Dodgers taking the field and the Angels about ready to come up. Mike Scioscia beginning his 17th year as the manager of the Angels. Rather remarkable because that was his first job as a manager, and boy has he held on. And of course the highest point in Mike's career, the 2002 World Series. For the Angels, we'll take a look at their lineup now on Mike's card. Yunel Escobar opens up at third base, Craig Gentry in center field, and Albert Pujols the DH. Then you have C.J. Cron, Cole Calhoun in right, Andrelton Simmons at short, Carlos Perez the catcher, Shane Robinson in left field, and Johnny Giavottola at second base. On the mound for the Dodgers, Scott Kazmaier making a start here at Dodger Stadium. He's an even 175. Kazmaier, 32 years old, originally a first-round pick by the Mets back in 2002. For Kazmaier, he's trying to come back. He at one time was with the Angels, but they released him. And in those days, he threw pretty hard. Then he had a lot of minor injuries. He suddenly lost the velocity on his fastball and was eventually released by the Angels in June a couple of years ago. He was 9-15 with them. Last year, interestingly enough, Kazmaier's earned run average, he was in the top 5. His earned run average was 3.1. Naturally, Clayton Kershaw was number 1. But Kazmaier, record of 7-11, and of course Kershaw was 16-7. So Scotty's last couple of starts, about 6 of them with Houston, he went 0-3 with an earned run average of 6. So we'll see about his comeback, another chapter in it tonight. Yunel Escobar will start it off. Escobar is naturally a shortstop. He was brought to Washington to play second base with the potential to go back to short. Once the shortstop, the incumbent at the time, Ian Desmond, would go off into free agency. Escobar takes a little low ball, 1-0. Instead of playing short or second, Escobar wound up playing third base for Anthony Rendon, and to be honest, did not do a good job at that position. He takes the pitch low, and the count 2-0. He did have a pretty good offensive year, although he led the league in grounding into double plays. He hit into 24. A one-hopper to short. Corey Seager makes the play, and just like that, we had one away. Take a look at the Dodgers with the leather. It's a new look for tonight. Gonzalez and Utley, Seager and Turner, Van Slyke, Hernandez and Puig, and behind the plate, A.J. Ellis. So one away on a ground ball to short, and Craig Gentry coming up. Gentry will be playing center field. A good ball player, and the Angels feel that he might do quite a job out there. Played in AAA last year, and Gentry has a look at the first pitch, and that's a little low, ball 1. So Craig Gentry last year spent most of the time at Nashville, played 20 some odd games up at Oakland. Originally signed by the Rangers. The 1-0 pitch on the way, very high. So 2 balls and no strikes to Craig Gentry. Kazmaier with 1 out on the ground ball. If he's on his game, you figure to see a lot of ground balls. The next fit, a fastball, swung on and missed, and the count 2-1. The Angels won 15 games in the spring, didn't mean very much. Dodgers won 13. As we mentioned at the opener, the interesting thing, they played 9 ties. Chopper wide at third. Turner can't get it, but the shortstop does. So Seager calling that one in the hole, and that'll do it for Gentry. So on 2 ground balls, 2 down for the Angels, and Albert Pujols coming up.
Designated hitter number 5, Albert Pujols.
Certainly everybody knows really in baseball, Albert Pujols will swing at a high fastball no matter the count. no matter the score. And most of the time, he's very successful. Didn't hit for average, but he still hit 40 home runs and had 95 runs batted in. Having trouble with his foot, so it's questionable as to whether he'll play much first base. Dodgers load up the left side of the infield, and the first pitch, a high fastball, but up and away. 1 ball and no strikes. So the left side is stacked. Gonzalez all alone on the right. Kazmir ready, and his 1-0 pitch, and that's a little low ball too. 2-0 the count to Albert Pujols. That plantar fasciitis, he had surgery. So for Mike Scioscia, he said most of the time Albert will be the DH. 2-0 pitch on the way. That's finding the corner, and the count 2-1. The great Pujols, and he has certainly deserved that title. What a magnificent career he has had. Kazmir ready. The 2-1 pitch to Albert. Swung on. Chopper foul outside of third. For Pujols, they began pretty early in his career to link his name with Willie Mays, because Mays had been the fastest player to get to 1,000 hits and 200 home runs in only 800 and some odd games. The 2-2 pitch is low. Mays did it in 825. Albert did it in 806. Waiting, hitting behind Pujols in this lineup tonight, C.J. Cron. 2 down, first inning, no score. And the 3-2 pitch is whacked to the gap. A hopper that hits the grass, scurries to the wall. Pujols rounding first and will have to hold on. So for just about everybody playing the game, that would be a double. But on those sore puppies, for Albert, he'll settle for a single, and a nice defensive play by Enrique Hernandez playing center field to hold that to a long single. So anytime you keep the ball in the park, you've certainly done a good job pitching to Pujols. And now C.J. Cron coming up. Cron last year hit 16 home runs, 51 runs batted in, and turned in a very nice job. C.J., that's Christopher John. Cron, right-hand batter, lives in Phoenix. Came out of the University of Utah, and he takes a pitch low, ball 1-0. Cron was listed as a first baseman and a catcher. However, he's playing more first base, and with Pujols and the bad feet, Cron figures to work a lot at first base. So the Angel first baseman takes a high changeup that drops in nicely for a strike, and the count 1-1. Chris's dad is a former player, now manages in the Tigers organization. 1-1 pitch way inside, ball 2, 2-1. In the pecking order, Cron had to be very patient, but he is here now and ready to move. Remember the catcher, Chad Moeller? Well, they're cousins. The 2-1 pitch, and that's in for a strike, and the count 2-2. So Kazmir got 2 ground balls, gave up a line single to left center from Pujols, and working on Cron. Waiting on deck, Cole Calhoun. 2-2 pitch on the way. Kazmir fastball away, swung on and missed, and that does it for Cron. So for the Angels, no runs, 1 hit, a man left, and at the end of half an inning, Angels nothing, Dodgers coming up. We go to the bottom of the first inning and look at that sky. Cotton candy looking down at the Dodgers' new manager, Dave Roberts. More about Dave later on. But we'll take a look at his starting lineup. Kike Hernandez opens up in center. Then you have Yasiel Puig in right. Justin Turner at third. Adrian Gonzalez at first. Scott Van Slyke in left. Chase Utley at second. A.J. Ellis behind the plate. Corey Seager, the shortstop. Scott Kazmir, the pitcher. Andrew Heaney on the mound, 6-4 last year, and for a moment he was a Dodger. The left-hander deals, gets a strike to Hernandez. Heaney is 6'2" and 190, out of Oklahoma City, originally signed by the Marlins. Strike one pitch on the way. Hernandez, big swing and a miss, and the count 0-2. Kike starting in center. Jock Peterson sitting this out, at least at the beginning, with a left-hander on the mound. Kike last year hit .307, and he was magical all over the field. Swings, flares one into right field for a base hit. The temperature tonight, 63 degrees. Not bad, although many of the players not in the starting lineup are pretty well bundled up. So here's Hernandez with a single to right, and Yasiel Puig coming up. Heaney was with Miami, and the Dodgers made a deal. They traded D. Gordon, and Heaney became a Dodger for about an hour, and they then traded him to the Angels for Howie Kendrick. It was one of the more amazing stories that occurred, but nothing was more amazing. Do you remember last year, Bronson Arroyo, the pitcher? We'll tell you about Bronson, but right now here's Yasiel. Hernandez at first, nobody out. Dodgers winning 92 games last year. Puig banged up, didn't play that much. Takes a look at ball one. Bronson Arroyo played for 3 teams in 1 year, whatever actually playing in a single game. Now that's pretty hard to figure out. He started the season, did Arroyo, trying to rehab after Tommy John surgery. The 1-0 pitch on the way to Yasiel Puig. Swung on, big chopper to third, backing up as Escobar throws to second in time. Battling to stay on the bag. Johnny Giovatella did just that, and Hernandez is forced. Big play by Johnny. Escobar, who is a very shaky third baseman anyway, normally a shortstop, almost threw that thing away. So Giovatella makes a good play. Hernandez is forced. And the batter now, Justin Turner, who's playing marvelous ball in the 9 games that he has played. He has hit safely in all 9. And he has 3 home runs, 9 RBIs. So Turner checks in, 1 out. Puig at first. On deck, Adrian Gonzalez. Heaney ready, and the left-hander's fastball swung on and missed. Anyway, there was Arroyo rehabbing after Tommy John surgery as a member of the Arizona Diamondbacks. In June, Arroyo was traded from Arizona to the Braves, though he joined the Braves in Florida to still rehab. And then the end of July, he was traded again to the Dodgers. The pitch high and inside, 1 ball and 1 strike. Arroyo called the Braves president to confirm it. Are you kidding me? And they got a big laugh, and Hart said, no, we had to throw you in the deal. So he was with Arizona, he was with Atlanta, and with the Dodgers, and never played an inning for any of the 3 teams. Pitch outside, fire to first, no play on Puig, and the count 2 balls and 1 strike. Oh, since he was rehabbing his arm, one other thought. Arroyo was the only player to be on the 60-day disabled list 3 times. There was quite a story. The wanderer known as Bronson Arroyo. All right, 2-1 to count. No score, bottom of the first inning. 2-1 to Turner. We'll see if they run Puig. You have the left-hander Heaney looking over at him, comes to the plate, and it's foul back. So pretty hard to play hit and run, despite the ability of Puig to run, with Heaney, who has a pretty good move to first base, staring in. Any Angel fan will probably remember a Sunday afternoon in September. The Angels were 2.5 games behind the Astros. 2-2 pitch. There goes Puig. Off-speed pitch is hit into shallow center. It's going to drop. On his way to third is Puig. Holding at first is Turner. So Hernandez a flare to right. Puig hits into a force play. And now Turner continues his continuous hitting. And singles to center. So with one out, here comes the butter and egg man for the Dodgers. And that would be Adrian Gonzalez. You know, last year, Gonzalez had only 154 at-bats with runners in scoring position. The year before, he had 222. So the difference in 2014, 116 runs batted in. Last year, 154 at-bats, he had 90 RBIs. So that's 68 less at-bats, and the result, a few less RBIs. Adrian takes high, ball one, 1-0 the count. Dodgers first and third, one away, no score, bottom of the first inning. Andrew Heaney checking again. Now the left-hander ready. The 1-0 pitch on the way. Adrian holds up on a strike, 1-1. We were talking about a muggy Sunday afternoon last year. Carlos Correa up against the Angels. Batting, hit a shot up the middle off Houston Street. Taylor Featherston dove for the ball and caught it in the webbing. Line drive at second baseman Giovitella for the second out. So Gonzalez a hard out, and that'll bring up Scott Van Slyke. Anyway, the line drive is caught by Featherston, a great diving catch, and he can't get the ball out of the webbing of the glove. Now we remember Terry Mulholland years ago, the pitcher, on a comebacker that stuck in his glove. So he ran over to first and threw the glove and ball together. But Featherston couldn't do it. And because of that line drive that could not be played, Correa reached base. The Astros took the lead, and the Angels never recovered and wound up missing the wild card by 1 game. Baseball can break your heart. Van Slyke takes a hook down around the ankles. 1 ball and no strikes. Here in the inning, the Dodgers first and third, 2 out, no score. Heaney left foot on the rubber, looks down to get a sign. Now Andrew ready. The 1-0 pitch on the way, fastball, good sink to it, and it's fouled away. So 1 ball and 1 strike to Scott Van Slyke. Van Slyke in the spring struggling with the bat. Then, like everybody else, tried to get ready and finished up the spring hitting about 360. So Scotty waiting, 1 ball and 1 strike. Here comes Heaney, and the pitch up and in, fastball up around the chin. Heaney hitting 93 on the gun. Scott, who plays first base and the outfield, so he's a very important backup player. 2-1 pitch, gets away at the plate from Carlos Perez. Down to second base goes Turner. So the Dodgers now have runners at second and third with 2 out. Carlos Perez, a young catcher with the Angels, is a good defensive catcher. The question for Perez, of course, will he hit enough? Mike Scioscia, of course, a fine catcher in his right. So he's got the manager who can also be a coach as Carlos settles back in. Heaney looks down the barrel to get a sign. Van Slyke waiting with first base open, 3-1 the count, 2 down. And Chase Utley on deck, and there's a shot up the middle. Giovitella backhands it, throws, and got him. What a play by Johnny Giovatella. He had a leap in the air, a one-hopper, and Scott Van Slyke is nailed. So thanks to Giovatella, who stayed on the bag on a bad throw by Perez in the first inning, now comes up with a gem, and at the end of an inning, no score. Two dazzling plays in the first inning, and because of it, Scott Van Slyke loses an RBI and a base hit, and the Dodgers leave runners at second and third. So Andrew Heaney got out of that. Both starting pitchers each making 18 pitches in the first inning. So here's Cole Calhoun, left-hand hitting outfielder, and takes a hook for a strike, and the count 0-1. Calhoun had a good power year last year. He had 26 home runs, 83 runs batted in. Chopper to the left side. Nice play by Justin Turner. And as he's running towards third, he's able to get the ball over the first in time for the out. So one away. Calhoun had 26 home runs, 83 RBIs. However, he struck out 164 times, and the Angels certainly want that to change. Andrelton, shortstop. Probably the best one in the business is Mr. Simmons. Rangy, shortstop, bends a little bit at the knees at the plate. Hit 265 last year. Nice slow curveball in for a strike. 0-1. One out, second inning, no score. Carlos Perez, the catcher, on deck. Now the strike one pitch, tight to the kneecaps. And a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Andrelton Simmons, outstanding. I don't think you get an argument when you say he's the best shortstop in the game. Now the 1-1 pitch, and he takes away. He's big, 6'2", and about 175 pounds. Grew up in Curacao, so he probably knows Kenley Jansen when they were both young men. 2-1 pitch on the way is a changeup high. One thing about Kazmir, well, he doesn't waste any time. He gets the ball, comes right after the hitter. So 3-1 the count to Simmons. Kazmir checks. Left-hander ready. 3-1 pitch. Fastball sinking at the knees for a strike. Waiting on deck, hitting behind Simmons, the catcher, Carlos Perez. 3-2 pitch on the way to Andrelton Simmons. Taken low, ball 4. So a one-out pass to Simmons, and here comes Perez.
Catcher number 58,
Perez with the
Carlos
pass
Perez.
ball, but it didn't hurt. Carlos taking a look down at third. Gary DiSarcina is over there. Old friend Alfredo Griffin normally hangs out at first. Some of the Angels staff might very well still be over in Arizona. Kazmir's fastball shot up the middle for a base hit. Down to second goes Simmons. And runners at first and second and one out. No score. Second inning.
Shane Robinson.
Shane Robinson, who was just recently picked up, reminds you a little bit of Van Slyke. Shane Robinson, the Dodgers may or may not remember. He had his greatest moment here at Dodger Stadium. It was Game 4 of the 2013 League Championship Series, and the Cardinals were leading the series 2-1, and they were leading that game 3-2 in the 7th inning. And J.P. Howell was on the mound, and the first pitch in there for a strike to Robinson. Well, Robinson came up as a pinch hitter, hit a home run for the insurance run. Cardinals won the game 4-2, won the series in 6. And one other note, that's the last home run that Robinson has hit in his career. 2 on and 1 out. Kazmir delivers high and away. Not a very good pitch, especially no follow through by Kazmir. He was wide open, staggering a bit off the mound. 1 ball and 1 strike. 2 on, Simmons and Perez. Kazmir at the belt. And the 1-1 pitch coming up in this scoreless second inning. Fastball grounded to short. They're going to get 1. They will turn it for 2. So Robinson kills 2. The Dodgers turn it easily. Seager, Utley, and Gonzalez. A man left on base, and at the end of an inning and a half, no score. Here with their gloves and caps full of dreams, both Dodger fans, and obviously from the name and numbers on the back, they are 2 of Yasiel Puig's many fans. Into the second we go. It'll be Chase Utley, then A.J. Ellis and Corey Seager against Andrew Heaney. Now Social loads up the right side of the infield as Utley checks in. So there's been talk from some about we won't see it as much. Some quoted as saying they don't like loading up, but the Dodgers have done it, and now the Angels do it to Chase Utley. Ground ball, foul outside of first. I think the thing that has always bothered me mentally is if you load up the right side against a left-hand batter, then to utilize the right side, you have to pitch to Utley's strength. I mean, if you pitch him away, the whole left side of the infield is wide open. Strike two is pulled and finds a home for a base hit into right field. So Utley, a line drive single. That would be hit number 3 off Andrew Heaney, and A.J. Ellis coming up. So all through my life in baseball, I have heard pitchers and catchers talk about don't pitch here, pitch away or whatever. Don't let him pull the ball. And then you set your infield to block him from doing just that. And when the Angels loaded up, the only man on the left side was way over to second base. So Utley's at first. 3 hits for the Dodgers, 3 hits for the Angels, no runs. And the first pitch in for a strike. 0-1. Ellis checking, looks down at third. Chris Woodward over at first, George Lombard. The Dodgers' new look starting in the dugout. 0-1 the count to A.J. Ellis. Strike one fastball is lifted to shallow center. Coming in is Gentry, then jams on the brakes. Craig makes the catch, gets it back in. So we have 1 out, a man aboard, and Corey Seager coming up.
Shortstop, number 5.
Corey Seager, you may remember, had his leg buckled. The knee just seemed to give out running the bases. I believe this is his first game since the 11th of March. And he has played a few games against minor league competition, but he checks in now with all eyes on him. All of the credentials are beginning to pile up, and all you hear is he's going to be the Rookie of the Year. And the answer is we'll see. Corey waits, left-hander against left-hander, hits a little dribbler over third base down the line for a base hit, smothered by Escobar, and the Dodgers get a big break. And there are runners at first and second with 1 out. And Scott Kazmir coming up. Kind of a sheepish grin on Seager's
Pitcher
face.
number 29, Scott Kazmir.
Of course, it's not fishing. You don't throw the little ones back. Escobar did save a base, however, by smothering the ball on the foul line. So Corey an infield single. Utley advancing to second. And Dodgers at first and second, and Kazmir coming up. And certainly what you would think would be a bunt situation. Of course, remember, Kazmir spent a lot of years in the American League with the Rays, so we have no idea what kind of a hitter he might be. He was also with the Angels, the Indians, the A's, and the Astros. He shows bunt and takes off the plate. Ball 1. So 1-0 to Scott Kazmir, looking down at third. Chris Woodward perhaps hanging out a sign. No score, bottom of the second inning, and now C.J. Cron suddenly turned, looked over to the Angel dugout, and Mike Scioscia perhaps the one who hollered to him. So let's see what's in the works. The infield of Cron, Giovatella, Simmons, and Escobar. Escobar well in on the grass. Heaney out of his stretch. The corners look like they're ready. They're coming for the bunt, and it's down foul. And the count 1-1 strike. So on that bunt, Escobar came to the plate. The shortstop Simmons committed immediately to cover third. So the runners go back. Utley to second. Seager to first. 1 out. Kazmir trying to move him along. Now George Lombard comes over to say something to Seager. And again, the corners are up for the Angels. Let's see if they commit. Both Cron and Escobar poised and appeared to be at the ready. And we'll see if they have Simmons covering third base again. Or are they trying to pick off Chase Utley, but as a veteran second baseman, he certainly knows that game. The next one is low as Kazmir was around to bunt. And the count 2-1 strike. No score. We've had 7 hits in the game. The Angels left 2 so far. Double play took them out of an inning. Andrew Heaney, 6-game winner last year. He's going to be asked to win a lot more this year. 2-1 pitch. Kazmir gets the bunt down. Up with it is Escobar. Throws to third base in time to get Utley. So a nice play as Simmons continues to cover the bag, and Escobar got it back to him. So Utley erased. That's 5-6. Down to second base goes Seager. And Kike Hernandez coming up. Nice play by the Angel infield, the way they covered the bunt, the way they maneuvered, and it finally paid off. Kike opened up the game with a base hit. We'll see what he does this time. Kazmir in his career had one sacrifice. Fastball swung on, hit hard to center. Gentry goes back and picks it off. So Hernandez stings it, but for an out. And the Dodgers come up empty again. No runs, 2 hits, 2 left. At the end of 2, no score. Reminder, the Giants come to Dodger Stadium for 3 games beginning Friday, April the 15th. So be sure to get your tickets today. And to purchase, visit Dodgers.com/tickets. Oh yes, April the 15th. Jackie Robinson Day and Income Tax Day. And the Giants. Perfect. 3rd inning, no score. Johnny Giovitella has already made 2 great plays in the 1st inning. Hours before the game, April the 10th last year, the Royals gave an American League Championship ring to Mike Scioscia so he could present it to former Royal second baseman Giovitella. And they told him, the manager wants to see you. And Johnny was saying, uh-oh, that can't be good. Instead, when he got there, Scioscia handed him the ring and said, put it on. If you don't put it on right away, it's bad luck. Well, he did very well until August, when Johnny had bad luck. He woke up one morning in late August with double vision. Kazmir ready and delivers. Giovitella takes low and inside. 1 ball and 1 strike. There's no apparent cause. It's a malady that was eventually diagnosed as 4th cranial nerve palsy. Well, it knocked him right out of the Angel lineup, as you can well imagine. 1-1 pitch finds a home, and the count 1-2. Johnny in and out of the lineup because of the malady. He's 5'8" and about 180, 185. 1-2 pitch, breaking ball fouled off. When he did come back into the lineup, he was red hot. He was launching an extra base hit each of his first 6 games back in the lineup. So that eased concerns about the double vision. 1-2 pitch on the way. Johnny swings, fouls that away. One thing he does not have, he lacks any power. But that would put him on a par of, let's say, Eric Ibar. He used to play short. Gianfratello waiting. 1 ball and 2 strikes to John. He has a look at a pitch low, and the count 2-2. Interesting too, Gianfratello did a lot of work defensively at second base with Ron Washington, who at one time was the Texas Ranger manager. C.J. Cron learned a different way to play first. So you have fellas on the right side of the infield, and each fresh from all kinds of instruction. Gianfratello from Metairie, Louisiana. The 3-2 pitch on the way. Johnny swings, hits it in the air to right center. Outfield is converging, and it is home. Wow. Puig and Hernandez, and Puig make the catch. Normally, on a ball in the gap, the captain is always out there in center field. So for Kike, that would have been his play. I'm surprised he got that close, thinking he had it, because you can hear Puig thundering over. Hernandez, eyes riveted on the ball, almost collided with him. So that's the wild horse out there, and we have 1 away on the fly ball to right center. Hernandez, okay. And the batter now, Yunel Escobar. Escobar from Cuba fouls it away. Escobar stowed away with about 5 ball players and 30 people sailing out of Cuba and made it to Miami. He paid the man who set it up $20,000. Here's the strike 1 pitch, foul back. One good thing, however, he got a contract of about $475,000. So that made the $20,000 gift okay. And of course, Puig knows all about the adventure of trying to escape from Cuba. 0-2 the count. A little foul ball. Escobar got that $475,000 from the Angels. When he was living in Cuba, he lived in a home that had only 2 main rooms, 1 bedroom for the parents and another where they cooked and ate and lived, and where Yunel and his sister slept. And fortunately, they had a small indoor bathroom. Another pitch, foul back. So you can just imagine how these young fellas, they escape Cuba. That's harrowing enough. They leave family and close friends back on the island. They get here, and from a dirt floor in the backwoods somewhere, all of a sudden they get 475, 5,000, whatever. Ground ball to short. Seager is on it. Plenty of time to take care of Escobar. And we have 2 down in the 3rd inning. Craig Gentry will be coming up. Scott Kazmir working very well. 18 pitches in the 1st inning, 12 pitches in the 2nd inning. And now he has 2 out in the 3rd, and Gentry checking in. Gentry, right-hand batter, looks at a fastball low, ball 1. Gentry is 6'2", about 190. Born in Fort Smith, Arkansas. 1 ball and no strikes. Change up, check swing, and the pitch misses, and they count 2 balls and no strikes. Gentry waiting, and the 2-0 pitch swung on. Big chopper to third. On the bag is Turner to throw him out. So another nice inning, and for Kazmir, he is doing what we thought he would do. He's getting a lot of ground balls. And at the end of 2.5 innings, no score. Bottom of the 3rd inning, no score in the ball game. It'll be Yasiel Puig, followed by Justin Turner, and then Adrian Gonzalez. Andrew Heaney on the mound, ready to work his 3rd inning. No score. Scott Kazmir has done well. Heaney delivers off speed, half swing for a strike. Kazmir has made 46 pitches in 3 innings. He has gotten 7 ground balls. Heaney's strike 1 pitch works its way inside. 1 ball and 1 strike. Andrew Heaney, All-American out of Oklahoma City, pitched for Oklahoma State, misses away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Tampa Bay Rays went after him in the 24th round, but he took a scholarship to Oklahoma State. Puig tries to lay off a low pitch, can't do it, and the count 2 balls and 2 strikes. Yasiel hit into a force play. Nice play on the infield by the Angels. 2-2 pitch on the way. Fastball, and Puig guessing fastball was a little out in front of it and fouled it back. So Puig, Turner, and Gonzalez, 2nd time around against Andrew Heaney. The left-hander ready in his 2-2 pitch on the way. Fastball fouled off. So he came right back in 92, and Puig couldn't get around on it. No runs, 2 hits for the Angels. No runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers. And the 2-2 pitch checked, and it's inside, ball 3. 3-2. Waiting on deck, Justin Turner. Heaney made his major league debut in Miami. His entire family was there, and it had to be a tremendous motion for everybody involved. Hard ground ball to third. Escobar sidearms it into the dirt, and Cron makes a good play. So a shortstop throwing a sinker over there, and Cron is able to stay with it.
Number 10,
so 1
Justin
away.
Turner.
Justin Turner coming up. When Heaney made his debut in Miami, the Heaney family was there, and his mom was watching, and up on the big scoreboard there were Andrew Heaney's name on the scoreboard, and she broke down as he walked in to start the game. Pitch fouled away, but she did dry her eyes, and she had a chance to take the ever-present cell phone and take a picture of her son making his debut. They tell me the picture is a little blurred because she wasn't really holding on very well, but she did it. Chris Heaney. Now the strike one pitch, comebacker off the glove of Heaney, deflected to short to Simmons, who makes the play. So that would be a 1-6-3 play. Nice defensive play by Andrew Heaney.
Number 23.
And with
Adrian
two down,
Gonzalez.
Adrian Gonzalez. Gonzalez hit a bullet to Giovatelli with 2 on and 1 out in the first inning. Though Adrian, always a tough out, especially with runners in scoring position. 2 down in the third, no score. Andrew Heaney ready. Slow breaking ball in there for a strike. Nice pitch. Heaney both feet on the rubber. Adrian broke his bat in his first at bat. Big swing and a miss at another slow curveball. Adrian back up, no balls, 2 strikes. Heaney comes back with a fastball, got him swinging, and that's that. So that was a nice inning by Andrew Heaney. 2 ground balls and a strikeout. And at the end of 3, no score. Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Carl's Jr., the Midnight Moonshine Burger with moonshine glaze and garlic pepper onion straws. Only at Carl's Jr. Well, we move to the 4th inning. No score. Edwin the Duke Snyder featured on the screen for a brief moment. And in the 4th inning, it'll be Albert Pujols, C.J. Cron, and Cole Calhoun. Pujols drilled a long single to the wall in left center. Albert takes under the hands, and off we go. 4th inning, no score. Kazmir has added a slider and a changeup. Hard ground ball, just foul. Pat Hoberg on the foul line, and that was close. 1 ball, 1 strike. Albert Pujols, remarkable, 36 years old. 6'3", about 230. High foul ball that's going to carry back into the stands, out of play. And the count 1-2. Tomorrow, game 2 of the 3-game series. Kent Maeda will be on the mound for the Dodgers. The Angels will counter with another right-hander, and that would be Santiago. Yeah. 1 ball and 2 strikes. 2-2 the count to Albert Pujols. Still one of the most dangerous hitters. He doesn't get any leg hits anymore. Not that he needed them in his prime. Way out in front of an off-speed pitch, and down goes Pujols. That would be the second strikeout for Scott Kazmir. And the batter, C.J. Cron. Cron will be the regular first baseman with Pujols as the DH. Cron's worked very hard to learn to play first base. The feet so important, and he made a nice couple of plays, especially digging out the low throw at first. So for Pujols, he'll play first base once in a while, but Scioscia figures Mike will be able to use him as the DH. Ground ball to third, Turner on it easily, and we have 2 down in the 4th inning. So Kazmir gave up a base hit in the 1st inning and a single in the 2nd, and he's gotten outs ever since. And here's Cole Calhoun. Cole Calhoun 0 for 1. He was a fixture in the Angel outfield last year. In fact, Cole Calhoun logged more innings than any other outfielder in the game. So that gave him, among other things, a Gold Glove worthy range and 11 outfield assists. Has a great arm. 1 ball and no strikes. We're in the 4th. 2 down, no score. Kazmir has retired the last 6 in a row. Change up, 2-0 the count. Calhoun going for power last year. 26 home runs, 83 RBIs, but he paid a price. So much so, in the final month of the year, he had 49 strikeouts and 5 walks over his last 120 plate appearances. So Kazmir behind 3-0. Fastball in there. Dodgers again loading up the right side. Seager has moved over to play second base. Remember last year against the Mets, Daniel Murphy on a walk, stealing third because Seager was over where he is? Well, there's ball 4. You can bet they've worked a lot on that this spring.
Number 2, Andrelton Simmons.
Andrelton Simmons drew a walk in the 2nd inning. Looking down to third at DeSarcina, and now ready to check in. He's been consistently rated as the best defensive shortstop in baseball, and last year was no exception. Fastball drilled for a strike. When he was with the Braves, the focus was on cutting down swings and making more contact. He used to swing and almost come out of his uniform. And raises a pop fly shallow left. Late start by Van Slyke, but Seager is out there and drops it. And going over to third is Calhoun. I will never forget. I was listening to a Dodger game. The club was on the road, and Red Barber was broadcasting the game. And there was a pop fly to the shortstop. And Red said, "There's a pop fly, and Pee Wee, all I can handle, will take it." And he dropped it. So for Corey Seager, I got to tell him, hey, even Reese dropped them once in a while. So error charge to Corey Seager. Running hard, Calhoun around to third, and the batter is the catcher, Carlos Perez. Fastball flared to right, coming up, and it's in front of him. Base hit in front of Puig, and the run comes in on the drop fly by Corey Seager. So Perez twice now gets a base hit against Kazmir. Once to center, once to right, and the error charged, and the run comes home. Last year, you may remember, and usually you forget things like that, but the Dodgers were the best defensive team in the major leagues. Numerically, at least. They made only 75 errors all last year. So to err is human. And 2 on, 2 out, 1-0 Angels. And here is Shane Robinson. Check swing for a strike. 0-1 the count. Sean Barber is the plate umpire. These games are important not only for players looking for jobs, but for minor league umpires trying to move up to the bigs. Sean Barber been in the minor leagues since 2006. 0-1. And there goes the runner from second on a foul ball. So Simmons took off on the pitch, and it was fouled away by Robinson. No balls and 2 strikes to count. So Pujols struck out. Cron grounded to third. Calhoun walked. Simmons hit a pop fly, dropped by Seager. Calhoun hustling all the way to third, and Perez singled to right to drive in the run. 0-2 the count. We told you about Robinson as a pinch hitter for the Cardinals, hitting that big home run in the playoffs. Cardinals eventually won in 6 games. Strike 2 pitch on the way. Foul back. In the Dodger bullpen, no one throwing yet. The Angel pen is quiet. So the starters starting to stretch it out a little bit, and they're each man in the 4th inning. Kazmir, another look at the runners. He has a dancing Simmons at second. Off speed, a dandy of a change, and down goes Robinson. However, the error hurts. It's cashed in, and at the end of 3.5 innings, 1-0 Angels.
Hitting for the Dodgers, number 33, Scott Van Slyke.
Say, friends, guarantee your tickets to opening day this year with a Dodger Mini Plan. Choose from great promotional games which feature fan favorites like bobbleheads and brand new retired number pins. So visit Dodgers.com/mini-plan. Dave Roberts deep in thought in the Dodger dugout as Scott Van Slyke swings, hits a towering pop fly. C.J. Cron ready and makes the catch. So 1 pitch and 1 away 1-0 Angels. You know, baseball has a whole new deal. Apple and Major League Baseball have signed together. And this year, the manager will be allowed to have like an iPad in the Dodger dugout. An opposing hitter comes up, he can look in the iPad, see what the hitter did in previous games, where to play him, what to pitch to him, and against opposing pitchers, he can look in the iPad. However, Dave Roberts said, yeah, that's fine, but I'm not going to use it. Well, he might not use it, but maybe Bob Garandil, the bench manager. So we will see about baseball's latest addition. Here's Bob standing just to the left of Dave. Bob, of course, last year with the Mets. 0-1 the count to Chase Utley, talking about the Mets. 1 ball and 1 strike the count. Chase, of course, with Howie Kendrick over in Arizona with that tight calf, and Howie at 34, they really have to be careful. One bad movement, the calf tears, and wow. Foul at the plate. For the Dodgers, oh, it's negative to even think of it, but that right side of the infield has a little age. I mean, Utley's 36, 37. Kendrick's about 34. Adrian Gonzalez will be 34, I think, in May. It's a long year. Here's the 1-2 pitch. Fastball on the hands, and Utley still quick enough to get around on that pitch. It was in a great spot. Chase deadly serious. When he came over from Philadelphia, they said, tell us about Utley. And the Phil said, he never smiles while he's working. Fastball sliced to left field. Robinson is there. Shane waiting, makes the catch. Couple of fly balls, 2 down in the 4th. And the batter will be A.J. Ellis. So Andrew Heaney, almost a Dodger, now an Angel.
Ellis.
And pitching a dandy on an unearned run, leading 1-0. A.J. fly ball to center fielder Gentry. Gentry, of course, trying to fill a huge pair of shoes. Normally, you would see Mike Trout out there. Yeah, tough act to follow. 0-1. Late on a nice, easy fastball. Wow, 93. And it looked like he just made such a smooth delivery. No wonder he was signed and given a lot of money. Definition of a lot of money, $2.6 million. Pitch inside, 1-2 the count. The Angels starting pitchers could certainly use some help, as with the Dodgers. A little slow, looked like a slider, and that really tied up Ellis, and down he goes. So Heaney could very well be a big answer. And at the end of the 4th inning, it remained 1-0 Angels. But Corey Seager dropped a pop fly, and the run came in on a base hit, so the Angels lead 1-0. So Kazmir has made 65 pitches in his 4. Heaney has made 51 pitches in his. Yimi Garcia begins to loosen up in the Dodger bullpen. So we'll see. Kazmir now is going to go 5. Giovitella followed by Escobar and then Gentry. Slow and in there for a strike. Kazmir with a great changeup. Giovitella flied to right field in the 3rd inning. That was that ball hit to the gap in right center, a near collision with Hernandez. Little ground foul, and the count 0-2. Interesting thought, Corey Seager dropping that pop fly. You know, the top 6 hitters in the National League, the day that Corey was called up. He was called up September the 3rd. Interesting to look back. Here's the strike 2 pitch, chasing that slow curveball, and down he goes. The top 6 hitters, well, Starlin Castro with the Cubs, D. Gordon with the Marlins, Martin Prado with the Marlins, Christian Yelich with the Marlins, Yunel Escobar with the Nationals, and then Corey, who hit .337. Fifth inning, 1-0 in favor of the Angels. Little flipper into right field that will drop for a base hit. Puig over to pick it up. So Escobar, little pop fly into right. He will certainly take it. He's now 1 for 3 after twice hitting the ball to the shortstop.
Center fielder Craig Gentry.
So that'll bring up Craig Gentry, who is grounded to short and grounded to 3rd. Kazmir has allowed 4 hits and an unearned run. One run, 4 hits for the Angels. No runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers, who started off the ball game with 2 hits in the 1st inning, 2 hits in the 2nd inning, and came up empty. Andrew Heaney. He has pitched exceptionally well and figures to be a big man for the Angels. You know, when you look at the Angels staff, Matt Shoemaker 2 years ago was 16-4. And last year 7-10. Jeff Weaver 18-9. Last year 7-12. C.J. Wilson 13-10 2 years ago, 8-8 as Weaver looks on. Then you had Garrett Richards, who certainly is the ace. He was 13-4 2 years ago. Last year 15-12. So Heaney, who won 6, can give Richards and everybody else on the club a huge lift. We're 1-0 5th inning. Angels leading. Angels 85 wins last year. Finished 3rd. 2-1 pitch, a hopper speared by Utley over to Seager, back to first, double play. Boy, a fine double play from the veteran to the kid. Utley making a good spear, and then Seager closing it up. Now let's see. The Dodgers are heading for the dugout. There seems to be some delay for a moment. Utley's already in the dugout. And let's see, they were on the phone, and we'll see what develops. Was it a neighborhood play? That slide. Utley was away from the bag. Let's see what they're going to decide. Dave Roberts is coming out. They might not like that slide. Well, let's see. Boy, that's something. Spring training. Take a look. There's Seager. Looks like his foot was on the bag. He's about 5 feet from the bag, so the slide had nothing to do with it. the play at first, however, that's what they're arguing about. Yep. So I would think one good look at that. Mike Scioscia has done it again, and it'll go as a force play with the runner safely at first, Gentry. So let's just make it a force play, 4-6. That was a pretty definitive look. There, everybody looking up at the screen. What do you say, umps? Well, they're calling Mike Scioscia out again, Sean Barber and the other umpires. It sure looked like the throw was late. That first time we looked at it. This part's fine. No problem around the bag. Seager's on it. Plenty of time. Now the throw. And it looks like the throw's going to be late. There's the foot. There's the. So there it is. The Dodgers, meanwhile, could be challenging the slide. And the Angels are challenging the play at first. They don't want any rolling blocks on Utley play at second base like happened last year against the Mets. The Dodgers didn't like the slide. So for the umpires, let's see how they figure this out. It takes a lengthy explanation. One thing, the Dodgers are going back for sure. And I would assume the Dodgers, in the argument about the slide, will not get anything for that. And Scioscia will get something for the fact that the runner beat the throw. So that's what we have. We have 2 out and a runner at first. Scioscia still not too happy as Dave Roberts goes to the mound. Let's see what Dave has in mind. Okay, he figures that's enough for Kazmir. He had made 65 pitches and made 75. Should be out of the inning, but a disputed play at first base. So 75 pitches, and while the Dodgers bring in Yimi Garcia, we'll be right back after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, now pitching for the Dodgers, number 63, Yimi Garcia.
The Angels, thanks to the hustle by Gentry, still alive with a runner at first and 2 out. So for Scott Kazmir, he did a fine job. He went 4 2/3 innings, made 75 pitches, allowed only an unearned run, 4 hits, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. So Garcia, coming in now, gets a few words of advice from Adrian Gonzalez, and I would like to have gotten that advice He's going to pitch to Albert Pujols. The first thing I'm sure Adrian would say, don't get a fastball up on Pujols. He hit 40 of those last year. He'll hit him till he's 70 years old. Runner at first, 2 down, 1-0 Angels. Off break, little slider that wrinkled but stayed too far inside. 1 ball and no strikes to Albert. Hit into a force play. Singled sharply and struck out, so no force play. 1 ball and no strikes. Dodgers a modified shift and a fly ball to shallow center. Coming up for it is TK, and that'll be that. So Yimmy comes in, gets his man Pujols. No runs ahead, a man left, and at the end of 4 1/2, 1-0 Angels. The 5th inning, a well-pitched game by Andrew Heaney, who's still in there, and a fine job by Scott Kazmir, who finally came out after making 75 pitches. Heaney, by the way, has made only 51. He stayed around the plate, gave up 4 hits in the first 2 innings, but nothing since. Seager, meanwhile, ground ball to the hole, a diving drive, but Giovatelli cannot come up with the ball. It went off his fingertips. So Seager's aboard with a base hit to right field. Trace Thompson, a fine outfielder from the Chicago White Sox, questioned whether he can hit enough, but Thompson coming up now to follow the base hit like Corey Seager. That would be hit number 5 for the Dodgers. But remember, they had 4 hits in the first 2 innings and couldn't do anything with it. So Thompson hitting .295. He's an excellent defensive outfielder. Michael Thompson, his dad, of course, an outstanding athlete and a fine broadcaster in his own right. Thompson takes off the plate. Ball 1. 1-0. For the Dodgers, losing Andre Ethier for at least 3 months. You have Carl Crawford. You have Jock Peterson. You have the right fielder, Yasiel Puig, and you have Scott Van Slyke. Foul back. Dodgers feel if Peterson is slower and coming back to form or whatever, they have a fine defensive outfielder who might hit a little bit. There's young Jock Peterson, and of course Dave Roberts has to make some very tough decisions between now and Sunday. Get down to 25 players. Thompson's been a very interesting subject. 1-2 the count. Waiting on deck, Kike Hernandez. So 1 run, 4 hits. The run is unearned. No runs, 5 hits for the Dodgers. And Trayce Thompson, good size. He's 6'3" and a 200-pounder. At his feet, gets away, down to second. The throw not in time. So that'll be a wild pitch charge to Heaney. Seager, the tying run, is now at second. Nobody out. So Garcia did not have to work very long. Came in and made 2 pitches and comes out for the pinch hitter. So Thompson now trying to get the man over to third at least. He's 25 years old and born right here in Los Angeles. Two balls and 2 strikes the count. He hit .295 with the White Sox last year, but he only played 14 games. Trayce Thompson. A little late on that, and down he goes. So Thompson strikes out, 1 out. That's a big at bat. Failing to man at second base, nobody out and down by a run. Somehow you've got to get him over.
Kike Hernandez.
So 1 out, but it is a big out, and now you have Kike Hernandez. Carlos Baez warming up in the Dodger bullpen. And first pitch popped up. It'll be C.J. Cron in fair ground to make the catch. So of course, for a good ball club, and although this is only an exhibition, it is a well taken point. You get a man at second base and nobody out, you're down 1-0 in the 5th inning. You've got to get him over to third. But Thompson couldn't do it. Enrique couldn't do it. And it's up to Yasiel. And Roberts learning a little bit more about his ball club. Puig hit into a force play and grounded to third. So Yasiel 0 for 2. A healthy Puig, of course, makes a big difference. He takes the strike. Yasiel nodding in agreement. 0-1 the count. Dodgers have departed from the schedule we were given. They expected it would be Kazmir, Coleman, J.P. Howell, and Kenley Jansen. But they brought in Yimmy, and he got Pujols on 2 pitches, and now they have Baez tuning up. 0-2 to Yasiel Puig, and Pedro heating up, getting ready. He'll be pitching to Cron, Calhoun, and Simmons. Meanwhile, Andrew pitching at Gem. 0-2. Fastball off the plate. Just asking Puig to chase it, and he wouldn't do it. We were talking earlier about Heaney making his debut in Miami. Got off to a little poor start. A long home run by David Wright. In the dirt. Good save by Perez. However, after that, Heaney really settled down. Won 6 innings. And that was the only run he allowed in his big league debut. The home run to David Wright. So Yasiel Puig up there now. 2 balls and 2 strikes. 2 down. A runner at second. And the Angels leading 1-0. Fastball, slider, curve, cutter, and a changeup. You get them all from Andrew Heaney. Little slider hit into right field. Base hit. Here comes Seager. Throw to the plate. Wide of the plate, and the run comes in. So that was a pretty impressive at bat by Puig. Number one, he showed some plate discipline. Number two, he wasn't up there to pull the ball. He was just up there to hit the ball. And he got that pitch and went to right field with it. So Seager has to feel a little better. His error gave the Angels a run, and now he scores the Dodger run on a good bit of hitting by Yasiel Puig. So the Dodgers, thoroughly frustrated, now have to be delighted. I mean, that was pretty frustrating to watch Thompson strike out, and then Hernandez failed to move the runner, and then Puig saved the moment. So the wild pitch set the Dodger run up. The pop fly dropped by Seager set the run up for the Angels, and we're even 1-1. Justin Turner singled to center, grounded to short, 1 for 2. 1-1, bottom of the fifth. Fastball away. Of course, remember, these two teams in spring training played other teams into a tie 9 times. 6 ties for the Angels and 3 for the Dodgers. 1-0 to Justin. Fastball, line drive, foul down the line. So Puig will go back to first. Turner drilled it, but it just hooked right on by the line. One run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. 1 run, 4 hits for the Angels. Heaney and Kazmir. Kazmir relieved by Garcia for just 2 pitches to get Pujols out. 1-1. Yasiel driving in the Dodger run with 2 out. Might be thinking steal, but at the same time he has a left-hander looking right at him. 1-1. At the same time, Puig might have the speed, but you have a very, very good hitter at the plate in Justin Turner. Well, let's see if they use the combination in any way. There he goes. Pitches high, and the throw on a bounce gets away from Giovitella, and Puig is on his way to third as the ball cannot be picked up by Simmons. And now Puig rounding third and gets back to the bag. So the wild horse is free at his favorite grazing ground, and he gets an ovation from the fan. Yep, that's Yasiel. Got a good jump on Heaney. Low throw by Perez, gets away from Giovitella. Coming over is Simmons, and then he drops the ball. Yasiel holding, and he's shaking up everybody in the Angel infield. So Yasiel steals second. It'll be an error charge to the catcher, Carlos Perez. 2-1 the count. Big swing. 2-2. So Puig, as he is inclined to do, it's been a tight, well-pitched game. Crowd kind of sitting back. And then one move by Yasiel, and that wakes up everybody. So deuce is wild here. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. Puig bluffs, and Turner fouls it back. Yasiel put on a pretty good bluff coming down from the bag. Just as at first the left-hander's looking at you, when you're at third, he has his back to you, and so Puig wants to let him know that there is a weak spot there, and he's come down the line twice. 2-2. Ball 3, so he could be a bit of a distraction from Andrew Heaney. 3-2 with Adrian Gonzalez on deck. And there's ball 4. So Turner draws the walk. For Heaney, he's been throwing strikes all night, and that's their first walk. Socia holding up a lot of fingers to Carlos Perez, and the catcher is now signaling to the infield. Adrian Gonzalez hit the ball hard, broke his bat, lined out to Giovitella, and then last time up struck out. So Dodgers at first and third with 2 down. 1-1 tie, bottom of the 5th. Kentameda tomorrow night. Hector Santiago for the Angels. Ball 1. Now Perez out to talk to Heaney. Heaney and his wife Jordan have been together since their junior year. His wife is a very good golfer, and the family has pictures of Heaney caddying for his bride in one of her golf tournaments. One ball and no strikes. First and third, 2 down, a run in a 1-1 tie. Again, Puig way down the line, and it's fouled into the screen. 0-1. Cron is off the bag. Didn't want to give the entire infield to Gonzalez. 1 ball and 1 strike. And a little fly ball, but there's Gentry right there to handle it, and that'll be that. By the way, Puig in his regular season has stolen 2 bases against left-handers, 23 against right-handers, and at the end of 5, a 1-1 tie. Schedule in mind, the Dodgers and Angels here at Dodger Stadium tomorrow night. Then Saturday night, the Dodgers and Angels in Anaheim. Angels are doing a little different. They were off on Wednesday. They're going to play an exhibition game on Sunday against the Chicago Cubs and then open up Monday afternoon against the Chicago Cubs. The Dodgers open up in San Diego. The club stays on the road through San Francisco. And then opening day here at Dodger Stadium will be April the 12th against Arizona. A lot to think about, and let's get back to the game. Pedro Baez coming in now to pick up in a 1-1 tie in the 6th inning. Dodgers have made 2 other changes. Trace Thompson, who pinch hit for Garcia and struck out, stays in the game in center field. Charlie Culberson will take over at shortstop for Corey Seager. And Baez first pitch to C.J. Cron in for a strike. No one throwing in the Angel bullpen, so Heaney has gone a strong 5. And apparently will go out for the 6th. One ball and 1 strike. So Pedro Baez, who has a tendency to give up some home runs. Dodgers are hoping that he'll do better this year. High fly ball to right field. Yasiel is there. 1 away. So Cron 0 for 3. Hitting behind Pujols. No Virginia. We have not seen Mike Trout. I hope we see him.
Right fielder.
You have to believe Mike Trout, best player certainly in the American League. In the National League, the first name that would come to mind, and you don't match him up, but you would say Bryce Harper of Washington. And of course, Paul Goldschmidt, that big first baseman in Arizona. As they say, ain't no park big enough to hold him. So 1 away, and here's Calhoun, grounded to third, walk. Dodgers load up the right side. Clayton Kershaw was talking to a writer or 3. Not quite sold on loading up. You look so vulnerable when you're sitting here looking down and you look at the left side of the infield. Justin Turner all alone. Little roller foul, and the count 0-2. But the pundits have figured it out. There are so many new things in the game, and I really don't know half of them. You know, WAR wins what against replacement. There's a BABIP. I mean, there's just, I give up. Here's the strike 2 pitch, fouled away. I don't have to make any decisions, so I can calmly hold on to home runs, RBIs. Let it go at that. Calhoun grounded out, walked, and when Seager dropped the pop fly, raced to third, and Carlos Perez singled him in. The Dodger run, Puig single, stole second, took third on the throwing error, and then came home. Oh, 0-2. Well, Seager, who dropped the ball to help the Angels, then scored the Dodger run, and here we are, 6th inning, all even, 1-1. One and 2. Slicing fly ball down the line, coming over and waiting for it is Van Slyke. So a couple of fly balls to right field, then one to left, 2 down, and the batter is Andrelton Simmons. The shortstop walk reached on the error. Baez, everybody knows he throws so hard. He hits 97 easily. Simmons walked, had the drop fly ball, 1 ball and no strikes. Simmons kind of shaking his head, then looked at the umpire almost to say that was too close, wasn't it? 1 ball and no strikes. And promptly banged into left field. Coming up, Van Slyke, he'll have to play it on a hop. So Simmons hanging in there, takes one, and now the ball is loose. The feed, the tag, and he is out. So the Dodgers playing a little fast and loose on the throw coming into the infield. Simmons tried to take advantage of it, and he is nailed on the tag by Utley, and we're still 1-1. We move now to the bottom of the 6th inning. The crowd coming alive in a 1-1 tie. Dodgers and Angels tomorrow night at 7:10. Saturday night they'll be in Anaheim. Sunday the Dodgers will be off, and as we mentioned, the Angels will play the Cubs, which is kind of dramatic to think that you're going to play an exhibition game on the last spring training schedule and then turn around and play a big opening day game the next day against the same club. Well, here's Scott Van Slyke, and a strike. So Andrew Heaney extending himself to 6 innings at least, not a ball thrown in the Angel pen. 1 ball and 1 strike. Van Slyke robbed of a hit by Gio Vitella and flied to right. 1 ball and 1 strike. Just stayed low. Little change up, 2-1. Heaney very impressive, as was Scott Kazmir. Oh, good change and a lot of sink to that. Scott Van Slyke hitting on the arm speed, badly fooled. 2-2. Boy, that was a big league pitch. He's also made 78 pitches now. He had made 51 pitches in the first 4 innings, and he takes care of Van Slyke, 1 out. Say, you know, you can celebrate the legacy of Jackie Robinson Friday, April the 15th. Dodgers and Giants at 7:10, and the first 40,000 fans in attendance receive an adult replica Jackie Robinson jersey presented by Bank of America. So visit Dodgers.com/promotion. Chase Utley, single to right, flied out. Right. For Heaney, he now has struck out 4. In under the hands. Heaney in the 5th inning made 23 pitches. So apparently he really feels good, and Socha is letting him run a bit. One ball, 1 strike to Chase. That's a strike. Heaney still hitting 91, 92. and he's made 82 pitches now. And it sounded like a crack bat. The middleman, Giovitella, makes the play. In fact, that was Andrelton Simmons, the shortstop, playing way over. So we have 2 down, and the batter will be A.J. Ellis. So how do you score it? I mean, the shortstop makes the play, but he's the second baseman. Take your pick. That's the whole secret of scoring anyway. As long as you can understand it, that's all that counts. Two down, and A.J. Ellis fly to center, struck out. Yasmani Grandal has sore forearms. You remember last year he took a pounding behind the plate, foul balls off the shoulder, and he had trouble swinging the bat. And in spring training, it was the arms. They had him swinging a bat without trying to hit a ball. The last I read was he might make it for opening day. Meanwhile, 2-1 the count to A.J. Ellis. So the Dodgers using Kazmir, who pitched very well, 4 2/3. Garcia made 2 pitches to Pujols and got him out. And now Baez. And Baez backed up by Lewis Coleman. 2-1. Fastball hit to the hole, smothered at third. Escobar gets up, throws another sidearm, throws that sinker. I'll tell you one thing, he's going to wear out C.J. Cron, dropping that arm. You throw that sidearm pitch, it's always going to sink. Take another look. Good stop without a doubt. And then sidearm, sinker. Cron can't handle it, and it'll go as an error. So Charlie Culberson will be coming up. Ellis at second base on the error. Charlie Culberson has had a wonderful spring, couple of home runs, hitting .300. Back up certainly for Corey Seager. A Georgia boy. Foul ball, 0-1. Charlie is an even 6, 200-pounder. He played for Colorado. He had a cup of coffee just about 5 games back in 2012 with San Francisco. But then in 13 he came to Colorado, 14 to Colorado, and 15 he was in Albuquerque, and now here he is. 0-2. Culberson at Albuquerque last year just hit .200. He was at Colorado, then Colorado Springs, and then on to Albuquerque. Very impressive this spring. We have a 1-1 tie in the 6th inning. Ellis at second base, a tiebreaker. The outfield a gap in straightaway center over to left. And Culberson hits it in the air, making Craig back up, and Gentry puts it away. So no runs, no hits. There was an error and a man left at the end of 6. A 1-1 tie. We're going to the 7th inning in a tough ball game, a 1-1 tie. One of the better stories is a fella by the name of Lewis Coleman. He's out of Slater, Mississippi. Went to school at LSU, and a real long shot for the Dodger bullpen, but he has had a wonderful spring. He's 6'4", a 200-pounder out of Greenwood, Mississippi, and I love the idea that when he was drafted by the Atlanta Braves, he got news that he was drafted by the Braves. He was baling hay. You can just see a big farm boy working out in the field to get the news you've become a professional baseball player. He's had a wonderful spring. 6'4". With the bat, he's a switch hitter, but the big thing right now is how will he do in relief. This is a big spot for him. Starts with a breaking ball for a strike, and the count 0-1. Carlos Perez, the catcher, 2 for 2, single to center, single to right. Off the plate. With Coleman, basically fastball, slider, and a changeup. 3/4, but he drops consistently in the arm gap. He can make right-handers bail, and he makes left-handers very uncomfortable. Foul ball back, 1-2 the count. The interesting story about Coleman in his professional career, including his last year with the Royals, he's won 6 championship rings. 6. When they told him that the Dodgers got him, he said they're looking for a championship ring. Meanwhile, line drive single, and Carlos Perez goes 3 for 3 tonight and hit the ball very well each time. Ji-Man Choi is coming up for the Angels, a first baseman.
And hitting for the Angels, number 51.
Choi,
Ji-Man Choi.
remember Hee-Seop Choi, who played for the Dodgers. This Choi is a first baseman. He's from South Korea. So he's trying to make the ball club as a first baseman. You have Pujols as the DH, C.J. Cron as the first baseman, but Choi is a left-handed batter, so we'll see. He has an interpreter with him, but if Choi doesn't make the club, the interpreter leaves. So Coleman gives up a leadoff single. Choi, the left-hand batter, hitting in Robinson's spot. And a cracked bat and a flare. Utley goes out, makes the over shoulder and drops it. The throw to second base for a force play on Perez. Chase Utley twisting one way and then the other. Looked over the shoulder for a catch, and the next thing you know, the ball was on the grass. So Choi pops it up.
Second baseman Johnny Giovitello.
So Utley making the good play after turning around. Choi is at first, and here's Johnny Giovitello. Gee, the years go tumbling by, but remember the crowds chanting, "Hee-Seop Choi." Well, we'll see if the Angels are doing something with their Choi. It's a Choi to be in the big leagues. 1 out, 7th inning, 1-1. Little slider for a strike. Ned Yost, who had Coleman at Kansas City, said he's fearless and he throws strikes. 0-1. Fastball coming by way of third base. I remember Roy Campanella would talk about a situation like that, and somebody like a Ewell Blackwell, big, tall, and you'd swear he pitched around third base. And he would give the hitter a jelly leg, that front leg tough to stay in. So Coleman coming by way of third base. 0-2. Throws a little sinker. 1-2 the count. So the Dodgers using Kazmir, Garcia, Baez, and Coleman. Dodgers sent left-hander Adam Liebertor down. So they still have one left-hander in the pen, J.P. Howell. 1-2. Dodgers feel that the road to the bullpen is very good. Blanton, the long reliever. Then you would get, let's say, to a Coleman. And especially when you get to Hatcher, and then, of course, to close it with Jansen. 1-2 strikes. Comebacker. The play at second for one. It took Coleman a long time to get rid of that. That should have been a double play ball. He had to kind of wait before making his throw to Utley, and that cost him at first base. There's the comebacker. Now, see, waiting. And then by that time, not much of a chance at first at all. Rafael Ortega, another left-hand hitter, coming up.
It's hitting number 39, Rafael Ortega.
Two down. Giovitella at first, and here's Ortega having a very good spring. 333 and 9 RBIs. Looked like a little bit of a change for a strike. 0-1. They have to watch Giovitella, even though there's two out. It's not the pitcher up there, but another pinch hitter. Ortega played at Memphis. Giovitella has some speed, but a short lead. 1-1 strike. He's from Venezuela, from El Tigre, the Tiger. And pops it up on the left side. Turner backs up. Culberson calling. Charlie makes the catch, and that's the inning. So no runs, one hit, a man left. At the end of 6.5 innings. Dodgers won, Angels won. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by BMW. See a Southern California BMW Center today for exceptional offers or visit SoCalBMW.com. Bottom of the 7th inning in a very good, well-played game. A 1-1 tie. Al Albuquerque will come in and pick up now. Albuquerque at Detroit last year and was pretty impressive. So we'll see how he goes. I do understand, however, that Albuquerque has already been assigned to his minor league ball club. So this is one last look after Andrew Heaney made 90 pitches in 6 innings and allowed just 1 run. That's a strike and the count 0-1. Albuquerque is from San Pedro de Macorís in the Dominican Republic. Rob Segedin on deck. He's finishing up at first base for Adrian Gonzalez. 1 run, 6 hits for each team. The Heaney goes 6, and here's Albuquerque. Chased and missed. Thompson came up in the 5th inning with a runner at second base, nobody out. So it was a big test for him to get the man over to third, but unfortunately he struck out. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Are you keeping score? I mean, it is spring training for us. If you look and you want to keep it in for Thompson, another strikeout, so 1 down. If you're looking at the Angels defensively, you start with the shortstop. It's Cliff Pennington. G-Man Choi is in left field. Well, I won't speed it off for you. I'll give it to you slowly but surely. Rob Segedin checking in right now. He's playing and leading off, playing first base. He's had a very nice spring. 4 home runs, hitting better than .285, and so impressive. They're taking a look at him. He wears number 83, so you know he's on the edge. 1-1. He's from Old Tappan, New Jersey. Well put together, 6'2", 220. He has some years. He's 27 years old. Rob Segedin. Albuquerque comes in, strikes out Thompson, strikes out Segedin, and now Yasiel Puig coming up. Puig electrified the crowd in the 3rd inning. Seager was at second, 2 down, and Puig singled to right to drive in the run. Then stole second, took third on the overthrow, but the Dodgers left him. So Yasiel 1 for 3, an RBI single. 0-1. Justin Turner on deck. Down in the Dodger bullpen, you have J.P. Howell, who figured to pitch, and Chris Hatcher is now warming up with him. Oh, 0-2 the count. So a very impressive night for Andrew Heaney to go 6, make 90 pitches. Scott Kazmir, very impressive, went 4 2/3 and gave up 1 run, and that was unearned after the pop fly by Seager. Little foul, out of play. Hector Santiago tomorrow for the Angels. Kenta Maeda making his Dodger debut. I would assume that a lot of people in Japan will be tuned in tomorrow night. It'll probably be about 5 o'clock in the morning, but they'll be up to watch him. 1-2. Albuquerque, very much a man who might very well be back this summer. He is going out. 2-2 the count to Yasiel Puig. We have a 1-1 tie, 1 run, 6 hits for each team. Got him. So Puig strikes out, and all Albuquerque does come in knowing that he's going to the minor league and strikes out the side. And at the end of 7, a 1-1 tie. We're heading for the 8th in a 1-1 tie. You know, the LA Dodgers spring training baseball is live with the MLB.com at bat. That's the app. Stay connected all spring with radio broadcasts, video highlights, stats, news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your smartphone and tablet. Well, an old friend, J.P. Howell, checking in. JP works it off the plate for ball 1, 1-0. Howell last year, I think this is correct, inherited 33 runners and 2 scored. He was that effective. Meanwhile, he gives up a leadoff single. So we're trying to figure out the changes now.
Hitting number 20, Ray Navarro.
So Pennington, the shortstop, leading off in Gentry's spot. And now let's see. Wait a minute. Dave Roberts gone out. So it gives us a chance to write it in the scorebook. Cliff Pennington leads off and gets a base hit to left. And that's all for Howell. They're going to lift him, go back to Hatcher, and we'll be right back.
Hatcher.
faces one batter, gives up a single. Now comes out for Chris Hatcher. Hatcher, the great surprise for the Dodgers, had that fine ERA of 2.8. And once he got his act squared away in the middle of the season, he was extremely valuable as the setup man to pass the ball on to Kenley Jansen. Here's Ray Navarro. Hit .265 this spring. AAA hit .261. Ray Navarro, left-hand batter. He's from Puerto Rico. So Hatcher has to worry now. Pennington at first. The bunt is instead pulled back, and a 1-ball, no strike count. And as you notice, Hatcher started off with a fastball at 96. Dodgers have Austin Barnes at third. Barnes, a catcher, but now shows that he has a lot of ability besides behind the plate, and that makes him extremely valuable. So Barnes at third. Yunel Diaz is in left field for the Dodgers, and Johan Mises is in right, hoping someday to play here for keeps. 1-1. We're in the 8th. So the Dodgers have used Kazmir, Garcia, Baez, Coleman, Howell, and now Hatcher. And the Angels, Heaney went 6, and then Albuquerque, who struck out the side in the 7th. All eyes on Pennington. He doesn't go. The bunt is down. Hatcher has a play and makes it. The throw to first, not in time. So Navarro bunts into a force play, 1-6. C.J. Cron is due up. Nice play by Chris.
Number 24.
Culberson trying to get it over the first base in time, but not quite. C.J. Cron had a good year last year, but what was truly remarkable, he had 20 runs against one club. That's right. 20 RBIs against the Texas Rangers. That's ball one. At one point, CJ had 18 RBIs and no more than 3 RBIs against any other club. So 20 of his 51 RBIs against one team, Texas. I would imagine the people in Texas are talking to a lot of teams, and the question, how do you pitch? C.J. Cron. And there goes the runner, Navarro, and the pitch foul back. 1 run, 7 hits for the Angels. 1 run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. So they're playing this one for Mike Sosa and Dave Roberts like a regular game. They're bearing down. However, like all spring training games, they suddenly get to a point where that crisp major league look begins to dissipate. In at the knuckles. And 95. So Hatcher's very first pitch was 96. So he lives in that high rent district. 2 balls and 1 strike. 1-1 tie, 8th inning, 1 out. Navarro, we'll see if he tries to go. No. An off-speed pitch is low. 3-1 the count. On deck, Jeffrey Marte, who is finishing up at third base for the Angels. Three and one. But they didn't play hit and run. We'll see if they play run and hit. Navarro not going. 3-2 the count to C.J. Cron. Mike sending out a sign. Gary DiSarcina has it, passed it along. So 3-2, 1 out. They didn't go 3-1. It figures they'll go 3-2. There he goes. Foul back. Mike a little conservative. Did not run 2-1. Did not run 3-1. And finally runs in 3-2. So CJ back up with a chance to help his club and break a tie. So they got an eye for sure on Navarro. Dodgers with Rob Seguin playing first base now for Adrian Gonzalez. 3-2. Figure he's going to go again. Yep. And it is no sign at the plate. It's ball 4. So that's tough. If you're the plate umpire, you should help everybody out immediately. That way there's a useless throw, a useless slide. Take a look. Not a sign. Now I realize he might have said to the hitter ball 4. But if he did, the catcher didn't hear. Well, spring training for them as well. So first and second, pretty good at bat for Cron. And Jeffrey Marte coming up. Marte hitting in Calhoun's spot and playing third. And a strike. 0-1. Marte on the 40-man roster had a very good spring. Hit over 300. Played for Detroit last year. (0-1) now 1-1. Marte from the Dominican Republic. Hatcher getting a workout. Gave up a single to Pennington. Navarro hit into a force play. Cron walked, so 2 on, 1 out. And here's Marte trying to break a 1-1 tie in the 8th. Marte, a teammate of Al Albuquerque last year, up there now on a 2-1 count. He was originally drafted free agent, signed by the Mets back in 2007. Finally made it briefly with Detroit last year. Jeffrey Marte, Todd Cunningham on deck. 2 on, 1 out, 8th inning, 1-1. 2-1. Runners not going. Ground ball to short. Up with it there. Culberson backhands it to Utley. Safe at first. So a nice play by Charlie Culberson to turn it into a force play. Utley's throw late. Taking third is Navarro. So with 2 out, runners at first and third. Dave Roberts up on the steps. I'm not sure if they were going to appeal something, but they've decided not to. Bob Guerin passing some signs. So it's a force play. That takes Cron off. But it advances Navarro to third. And Todd Cunningham, left-hand batter, coming up. So first and third, 2 out in the 8th in a 1-1 tie. Cunningham hit .261 in the minors. He also hit .271 briefly with Atlanta. He takes a strike. Todd from Jacksonville makes his home. It's Jacksonville, Alabama, however. 0-1. And that misses. So here in the inning, Hatcher walked in. Pennington got a base hit. Navarro hit into a force play. Cron walked. Marte hits into a force play. And with 2 out, here's Cunningham trying to get the Angels ahead. Cunningham finishing up for the Angels in center field. And line drive, base hit into left center. The run will score. The runners at first and second. Clutch base hit by Cunningham against Hatcher.
Catcher number 58, Carlos
Marte
Perez.
advances to second. Due up would be the catcher, Carlos Perez, and he's coming up. So Cron and Perez so far are going the distance, and Perez making the most of it. Single to center, single to right, single to left. So Todd Cunningham breaks the 1-1 tie. The Angels lead 2-1. First base, you have Cunningham. Marte at second. 2 out. And a 1-ball, no strike count. One and one. Ji-Man Choi on deck. He hit into a force play in the 7th inning. We're in the 8th. 1 ball and 1 strike. Two out, 2 on, 1 in. Fastball missed. 2 balls and 1 strike to Carlos Perez. Carlos, the first string catcher from Venezuela. He was with the Angels and at Salt Lake City last year. Bluff and the runner Marte scampering back to the bag. Two balls, 1 strike. Hatcher makes another throw, but Utley is not really there to handle it at the other end. Nice throw to your second baseman, but he's 5 feet behind the bag. One reason he's there is the right-hand hitter, Carlos Perez, who has used the entire outfield, going 3 for 3. 2-2. Two runs, 8 hits for the Angels, 1 run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. Off the plate. So Hatcher goes all the way. The runners will be going. Marte and Cunningham with Choi on deck. Angels take a 2-1 lead. They led earlier 1-0. Dodgers tied it up. And now Dodgers down again. 3-2. Runners go, and it's fouled off. So back they go. Perez really impressive tonight with the bat. In the 2nd inning, a single to center. 4th inning, single to right. 7th inning, single to left. So a pretty good bit of hitting from Carlos Perez. Seeing a lot of different pitchers. Hatcher, by the way, is the 6th Dodger pitcher. 3-2. Runners go. Fastball got him looking. So the Dodgers get out of it cheaply enough. 1 run, 2 hits, 2 left. Good play by Culberson, and it's 2-1 Angels in the 8th. Two to 1 Angels, bottom of the 8th inning. Corey Taylor Rasmus by name, out of Columbus, Georgia. He was a first-round pick by the Atlanta Braves. He now lives in Phoenix City, Alabama. His dad, a high school coach, and was a 10th round pick of the Angels way back in 1986. His brother Colby, you may remember, a Cardinal first-round pick in 2005. So he comes from a baseball family. Austin Barnes, a catcher who is playing third base, and that's a tribute to the abilities that he has to play more than one position. Though Barnes not hitting much, but showing some power. 4 home runs along with Rob Hedgeton. Breaking ball, strike. 0-1. In the dirt. 1-1. Braves thought a lot of him. They gave Corey about $900,000 when they first signed him. He was a catcher in Little League, went all the way to the Little League World Series. He was certainly the nation's most successful high school pitching staff when he was the catcher. Went to a national title as a junior in high school. Valedictorian of his high school graduating class. So there's a lot for Corey Rasmus. 2-2. Two balls and 2 strikes. So Barnes goes down. That means the last 4 Dodgers have struck out in a row. Albuquerque got 3. Now Johan Meeses coming up. Meeses wearing that number 90, So you know he's really just starting out.
Hitter number 90, Johan Mises.
He's from Santo Domingo in the Dominican. Hit .260 in the minors. MIESES and breaking ball strike. Two runs, 8 hits, and 2 errors for the Angels. 1 run, 6 hits, 1 error for the Dodgers. High pop fly. Coming out is Perez. Coming down the line at third is Marte. And it's Marte who makes the catch. So Mises pops up to the third baseman, and that will bring up Diaz. Yusniel Diaz, kind of a baby face, wearing that number 84.
Yusniel Diaz.
High fly ball down the left field line. Coming over is Choi, and backhands it at the wall. Nice play by a fellow who's a first baseman. So Ji-Man Choi makes the catch. Dodgers out in order. The last 7 in a row have been retired. And at the end of 8, 2-1 Angels. Jansen coming in, despite the fact that the Dodgers are down 2-1. Jansen becomes the 7th Dodger pitcher tonight. Kazmir very well, 4 2/3, just 1 run, and it was unearned. And then Garcia, who made 2 pitches, then Baez, then Coleman, then Howell, then Hatcher, and now here comes Kenley. Ji-Man Choi, who made that good play in left field on that ball hit by Mises, will now lead it off. Ninth inning. 2-1 Angels. Angels scored in the 4th. Dodgers tied it in the 5th. Angels picked up that run in the 8th. Check swing foul to Choi. 0-1. Choi from South Korea, so timeout while Jansen gets ready to face him. In under the hands. 1 ball and 1 strike. Jansen, a daddy now. I think his son was born right at the end of last year. Little foul. 1-2. Joy trying to make it at first base and left field. Kenley, of course, heart and soul of the bullpen. He's the big man out there. 2-1 Angels, 9th inning. Joy times it, hits it into left center, coming over, making the catch to put it away. One away.
Second baseman number
That
12,
was Yusniel
Gianni
Diaz out there in left field. So one out on the fly ball. Giovitella staying in the ball game. Johnny has flied to right, struck out, hit into a force play. Hard foul. 0-1. Giovitella got that World Series ring from the Kansas City Royals. 1 ball and 1 strike. When the Dodgers come up in the 9th inning, Chase Utley going to lead it off. Then A.J. Ellis. And then we're not sure. 2 runs, 8 hits, 2 errors for the Angels. 1 run, 6 hits, and 1 error for the Dodgers. Giovitella made a couple of dazzling plays to keep the Dodgers tied up in the first inning. Made a diving catch of a line drive off the bat of Gonzalez and made a tremendous play on a ground ball by Van Slyke. For Kenley Jansen, in his career, his strikeout rate is 14 strikeouts every 9 innings pitched. Truly remarkable. High fly ball down the right field line. Mises coming over and in fair ground makes the catch. So we have 2 down, top of the 9th inning. The leadoff man, Rafael Ortega, will be coming up. Ines Escobar, playing third base tonight, hit leadoff and went 1 for 4. Ortega finishing up and hitting in his spot. Ortega playing right field. One ball and no strikes to Rafael. 2 down, 9th inning, 2-1 Angels. Dodgers will have Utley and Ellis, and then we'll see. Seager began the game, but Charlie Culberson is finishing up at short. 1 ball and 1 strike. Impressive performance by Al Albuquerque, who is going out probably to Salt Lake City, but he pitched tonight and struck out the side. Good breaking ball, or at least a cutter, had movement to it. 1-2. That cutter has really made Jansen a tremendous pitcher. 1-2. 2 down, 9th inning, 2-1 Angels. And that'll do it. So as usual, Kenley picks up a strikeout in the top of the 9th inning. We're going to the bottom of the 9th. Angels 2, Dodgers 1, 36,505 taking in the game. Angels were in the bottom of the ninth inning, and Greg Mahle coming in out of the bullpen. He will be the fourth, oh boy, submariner. So Mahle will be pitching to Utley, Ellis, and then we will see. Mahle is from Westminster, so we have a local boy here, and he still lives there. He went to Westminster High School, went to the University of California, Santa Barbara. Signed by the Angels, and here he is. So the local boy gets a taste of it. He's only 22 years old. So he pitched 2 years as a pro, 14 and 15, and he gets a veteran, Chase Utley's, to start it off. Utley singled to right, flied to left, and grounded to short. The bunt attempt fouled, and the count, no balls and 1 strike. So Mahle, 2 years a pro, pitching here at Dodger Stadium, reminds me of the great advice they always give a young minor league player. You know what the great advice is, really and truly? Don't look up. Yeah, don't look up. In other words, minor league kids, they're playing in small ballparks, and the veterans say to them, don't look up. Well, if he looks up, and he's probably been up in the stands growing up here. Ties up Utley, 0-2. And of course, you say to a rookie, now whatever you do, you're coming into, let's say, Dodger Stadium, don't look up, right? What's the first thing he does when he sure, but it has to be scary. I remember during the World Series back about 1952, and they're going to play Jackie Robinson in left field in the World Series at Yankee Stadium. And I went out to the workout. There wasn't anybody in the ballpark, of course, except some players. And I went out into left field and stood with Jackie during batting practice. And to look up, it is overwhelming. Wow. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Off the plate. So Utley, who has seen a lot of side armors and submariners, and battles and goes 3-2. Bottom of the ninth, 2-1 Angels. Little ground ball to short. And slowly in the dirt, but a good play at first base. So 1 away. Cliff Pennington, a veteran shortstop. And now let's see. So going out to talk or make a move? Yep, he's going to make a move. So Utley was leading off. He stayed with young Greg, and he got Utley. We'll be right back. came up to the Dodgers back in 2011, then 12, 13, then kind of disappeared and played a lot for several teams. The Angels finally got him as a free agent. And a strike to A.J. Ellis. So Heaney, then Albuquerque, Rasmus, Molly, and Guerrero. Ellis has fly to center, struck out, and reached on an error. Guerrero over the top with a good pitch for a strike. 0-2. Javi, 30 years old. He's from Denton, Texas. The only thing I remember about Denton, Texas, Miss America, Phyllis George. Nice lady. Used to work over at CBS with her a little bit. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Javi. Dodgers have not really done anything except for the run in the 5th inning, and that was set up by a wild pitch. So for Dave Roberts, a little frustrating night so far. Just off the plate. Javi can still throw hard. 94. Boy, you would think a fellow who can throw 95, it's a cinch, but not in the bigs. 2-2. And a high fly ball to center, but it's playable. Todd Cunningham out there. So the Dodgers are down to their last out, and the offense has just taken a hike. The last man they have gotten aboard was Ellis on an error. 9 in a row now retired. And Charlie Culberson, the shortstop,
6, Charlie Culberson,
batting in Sager's spot. Same time, same station tomorrow night, right here. Sportsnet LA. Kent Maeda. He'll be on the mound against Santiago, game 2 of the series. Then the final game Saturday night in Anaheim. Angels 2 runs, 8 hits, 2 errors. Dodgers 1 run, 6 hits, 1 error. Change up in the dirt. So from 94 to 80. One ball, 1 strike. Javi certainly pitches properly. If you watch him closely, he really gets his back and legs into the pitch, sparing a lot of strain on the arm. 2-1. That's a strike. The best pitcher for form I think I've ever seen. Not that that's a big deal, the best I ever saw, but still, the one that I really admired as Heaney enjoying the evening. He was brilliant. Tom Seaver. Yeah, Tom pitched with his back. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 9th inning, and it's 2-1 in favor of the Angels. So Charlie battling, hanging out 2-2. Guerra trying to put him away. Ground ball wide at first, smothered, but C.J. Cron feeding his man coming over, and they were too casual. Way too casual. And the Dodgers get a break. They've got the tying run aboard. So the Dodgers get a big break. Guerra took his time getting over there. Looked like actually the first baseman had the play. And C.J. Cron, who was learning the position, might very well have just run to the bag, and that would have been it. But he kind of waited for Garrett to get over there, and they blow the play. So the game should be over. And here's Trace Thompson. Yeah, that'd have been something to pick him off, huh? Trace Thompson has something to prove. Trace struck out with a runner at second and nobody out in the 5th inning, and struck out leading off in the 7th. 1 ball and no strike. It'll go as a base hit, but it should not have been. One ball and no strikes. In there. So Guerra throwing 93, 94. Got Utley and Ellis easily. Blows the play at first. Maybe he just thought Cron was going to take it to the bag, and that would be that. Throw down in the dirt. Nice block by Cron. Carlos Perez taking a shot. Dodgers 1 run, 7 hits, and the 7th hit a gift. Two balls and 2 strikes. Carlos Perez trying to get Guerra to settle down. The old story in the big leagues, you can throw 93, you can throw 94, but you have to throw strikes. Two and two again. Got him. So for Trace Thompson, a bad night. The poor guy strikes out 3 times. The Dodgers leave the tying run at first. 2 runs, 8 hits, 2 errors for the Angels. 1 run, 7 hits, and 1 error for the Dodgers. Hope you enjoyed the game. The play of the game would certainly be the biggest play of the night, and that brought up Todd Cunningham in the 8th inning. Cunningham singled to center to drive in the go-ahead run, and the Angels win it on that hit 2-1. Tomorrow night, same time, it'll be Maida and Santiago. Talk to you then. Till then, we wish you all a very pleasant good evening, everybody.